56 years of happily married life. And I know this because I asked her straight out. I said, "Are we happily married?" And she said, "You're very happily married." It was a short conversation, I recall.
At least you knew where you stood.
Huh?
At least you knew where you stood.
Yeah.
So, Pastor Hagee, he's 83. So we understand a lot about, having the opportunity to not only glean wisdom, but follow, individuals who are still driving and pushing and making a difference at a point when most people have said, "Oh, I don't know, hopefully I'll be around when I'm fill in the blank." Well, here you are getting ready to be 80. You're planning a high school reunion. You told all your classmates to bring their Speedos and their X-rays.
We had a high school reunion last year. It was billed as the last one. Who ever thought of that? And I'll tell you, we ate $140 worth of food apparently, because that's how much it was for 2 people. And then everybody went home. And I said, we can do better. So I'm telling people, bring your Speedo, bring your bikini. We're gonna take a little dip in the creek we used to swim in as kids. We're gonna roast a weenie, cook a hot dog.
Who's going to help you out of the creek?
I don't know. This is that creek. The creek is not exactly crystal clear. But anyway, God gives us every day. This is the day, the Lord's made it. Rejoice in it, right? We're going to have fun. And if it's fun, I want to be a part of it. If it's not fun, quite frankly, count me out.
Well, when it comes to fun, sometimes people find parenting fun and sometimes they don't. And you've written a book that is entitled How to Make Your Children Mine Without Losing Yours. And it's really a wealth and a resource. And I want to talk a little bit about that book tonight, but I also want to speak directly to some of your works that have been a blessing to me. This book here, The Way of the Shepherd, this is a fabulous book on leadership and how to help others reach their maximum potential in leadership. It's one thing to lead yourself well. It's another thing to inspire others to do their best. And this is a tremendous work that does that. And you brought this book with you tonight. You said you were going to sign immediately following.
Yeah, I'll sign books. But, everybody has the potential to be a leader. But whether you want to be a wannabe leader or you're a leader your family, you're a business person, the average person that picks up that book not only reads it, but then they buy it for other people. It's still in hardback from 2004. In the book business, when a book comes out, it's in hardback for 1 year, and then it goes to paperback automatically. That one doesn't, because the publisher loves to sell a living daylights out of it, to tell you the truth.
This book, Have a New Kid by Friday. So my wife read this, and we have 4 kids. So she read it the first time, and I thought I knew which kid she was trying to fix. And then she read it the second time. I thought, well, there must be another one that we need to fix. She's now reading it the 5th time, and I've figured out that she's changing the word kid out. She's putting have a new husband by Friday. And she's working towards, making some changes, I guess. But this is something that a lot of parents, they feel like it's mission impossible. And you break down a lot of the details of why children act the way they act and why parents behave the way they behave and who's training who.
Well, yeah, which one's the monkey and which one's the organ grinder? Listen, I'm saying this with a straight face. Parenthood is simple. You didn't hear me say it's easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's simple. There's a paradigm that works, but you have to understand a key word that we'll probably talk about tonight. And that word is authority. Here's the problem. Almost everybody in this auditorium tonight grew up in a home like I did, an authoritarian home. I had an Irish Catholic father who had a booming voice. He was a man of few words. He'd say things like this: "Hey, 8 o'clock. He'd point. I thought he was an English setter. he would just point, and if you didn't move, he'd say, hey, you want to go to bed under your own power, or you want to be ricocheted to bed? But you're going to bed. But the authoritarian model worked years ago. Children were to be seen and not heard. There was a pecking order. Listen to it. Fill in the blanks. Men were better than women.
You said that, I didn't.
Adults were better than children. White people were better than people of color. We know better today, don't we? Romans 3:23, each of us, that nonsense doesn't work anymore. So if you're a parent and you're still being the authoritarian parent, I'll put this in writing, I have in my book, your kids will rebel. You want to plant the seed of rebellion, be the all-know-everything parent. On the other hand, today, you walk 12 feet down the street and you'll meet the permissive parent. Brittany, Tyler, have you chosen to go to bed yet? Hey, would you kids turn that music down? I'm trying to finish your homework. I ain't making this up. I mean, parents snowplow the roads of life for kids. Why do your kids misbehave? Because you taught them how to misbehave. We can talk about that tonight, too.
Well,
don't get me going. We have seen the enemy, and they are small. And they're unionized. They know all our soft spots.
and then they know how to call mom and dad, too. They're grandparents, And my mom sent a video that mom and dad had been traveling for the last, 14 days.
Oh, wow.
And so they sent a video back to church this morning, and pastor's talking to the church, he's talking to the nations of the world, he's inspiring, he's leading, he's charging, and mom goes, and we miss our 13 grandkids. And I was like, because my kids look back at me like, Nana's coming home and you're in trouble.
I get that.
Yeah, so
I married Mrs. Uppington. We have conversations like this. She says, you're not going out like that, are you? What's the problem? You got a big spot on your shirt. Only one? Don't worry about it. I'll be back in an hour and a half. She knows exactly how I ought to speak, what I ought to eat, what's good for me, and I still love her.
this was a book that went in, just tremendous directions as far as the national bestsellers list, and you were interviewed many times on national networks, and some really profound research that you did in your career as a clinical psychologist on birth order, and how that impacts the dynamics in the family. Firstborn, secondborn, thirdborn, and really a lot of wisdom about the way that your children respond based on the order in which they were born, which I have to be honest with you, when I first heard about this, I thought, that's something that...
Sounds like phrenology.
Yeah, somebody needed to write a dissertation and then all the good topics were taken, right? But then when I read it, I thought, my goodness, not only is this true in my house that I'm trying to lead, it was true in the home I grew up in. And then I could look at it in, my parents' home and realize that based on the order they were born in, it had a lot to do with how they behaved. So how does this play into everyday life?
Testimony how God knew what he was doing, okay? You have 4 kids.
Correct.
Here's 4 little cubs come out of the same den. But look how different they are. The firstborn. But how many of you are firstborn children, just for fun? Do you know that you were the lab rat of your family? Your parents practiced on you. You got in trouble for what your younger sister brother did. I don't care what she did. You're the oldest. I expect more to you, young woman, young man. But the first 2 kids in the family are night and day different. Okay? And so, whatever the firstborn is, the secondborn, in all probability, is going to go the other way. In fact, I'll tell you something funny. When that book was written, back in the days when you sent your book in with cardboard and rubber bands, the working title on the birth order book that I still love was Abel Had It Coming. And the publisher said, you can't have a title like that. Abel Had It Coming.
For those of you who don't know, Abel was killed by his older brother. So.
That's right. Every older brother says, I like that title. Yeah, but you know, it's amazing to me. Identical twins, talk about birth order. Identical twins have the same DNA. They're genetically the same person. When I found out this fact that identical twins have different fingerprints, why did Almighty God decide that? To help the FBI? The local police? Or was this God's way of saying, you are my son, you are my daughter, you are what? Different from everybody else. And so many times in the church, oh, Sister Sally, oh, what a woman of faith, if I could just be like her. Save your breath. She's got bad breath, by the way. Don't get too close to her. But you know, we tend to put people up on pedestals. And one of the things I've tried to teach people in my teaching is flaunt your imperfection. Flaunt your imperfection. That's an unnatural thing to do. You know how many billions of dollars women in particular spend
Trying to fix imperfection.
and covering up things? A lot of money. Not as much as us men for sure. But my point is, when you pray, do you pray from your ideal self or your real self? It's sort of funny. Oh God, make me this. Oh God, make me that. How about, hey God, you know I have a problem here. I need some help. And I want to fork that over to you in my life. And see, what we do is we make deals with God. Oh God, I'm yours all 96%. Let me hang on just a little 4%. I'll tell you the truth. We have a God he wants the whole enchilada. He doesn't want a few papas fritas, a few French fries. He wants all of us. But the struggle all of us has is we got some capable people. There's a capable dude. This is a guy who understands relationships. He's busy. He's got a lovely wife, 4 kids. I don't know how he does it, but he's really good at what he does. But I'll tell you, Matt would tell you the same thing I'm telling you tonight. It's a battle to remember who needs to be the center point of your life. Because it's real easy to say, Lord, I got this one. Take a day. Lord, you need a day off. Take a rest. I got this one. And invariably, what happens? We goof up. We screw up. And then what's the first word out of our mouth then? Lord, is that you, Leman? Yeah. You just call me a tow truck, get me out this ditch? It's on its way, fat boy. Be there in a second. So as we struggle, you always come back to, hey, God's God. I love this scripture. Be still. I know that I'm God. In today's hectic, you parents got all your kids in all these activities. Here's a late breaking news. I'm glad you're sitting down. Activities are not good for kids, period. Is it, do you hear the silence? What do you mean? That's un-American. This is Texas. We do this, we do that. Hey, one activity per kid per semester. Now, if you're Pastor Matt, what does that mean? Okay, one activity per kid per semester. You're still shuffling kids from pillar to post.
I call myself Duber. I'm like Uber, but I'm dad.
Yeah.
Who just picks them up and drops them off. You know.
But too much is too much.
They text me when and where to do it. And Duber will be there.
So the heart of the matter is, most parents today, and I'm going to be kind. You're dumb as mud, okay? Because you're bringing your kids up. Listen to me, like they're the center of the universe. You're driven to make them happy. Oh, Dr. Leman, we're so glad you're here tonight because we want happy, happy children. I'm quoting myself. Listen to this. An unhappy child is a healthy child. There's times where your little Buford has to be unhappy. Why? Because he's got a smart mouth, he kicked his sister, he stole, and a lot of reasons why he can be unhappy. It's not going to kill him. You see the sun? Oh, no, really? Dr. Leman, are you sure about this? Yeah, I'm sure.
Don't worry, the altar call's coming.
Yeah.
So
Satan.
this next book,
Oh boy.
this is a powerful work.
Yeah.
Yeah, this book, you know, the last time you were here, you talked about it, and I found the idea that, you know, you were so captivated by a book about sex that I needed to read it, and then I bought 2 copies. And so what Kendall and I did is I gave her a copy and a pink highlighter, and I got my copy and a blue highlighter, and we each read chapters, and then we would highlight what we thought was important and then exchange. And so anything that was in blue, she knew that was for me, and anything that was in pink, that was in her. This thing should come with oven mitts. It's that hot.
You know what? I think it's the best book I ever did. It pushes the envelope and it makes people comfortable. Dr. Leman, excuse me. I grew up in a very fine Christian home, conservative, over in Nacogdoches. Maybe you've heard of it. And we never talked about anything, you know, down there. I mean, God gave us this wonderful gift of sex. And I was either smart enough or stupid enough to put it in print. And I pushed the envelope, but you should see the life-changing stories I hear from people who struggle. This is not easy. You'd think that something like sex is just, you know, going to happen, stars are going to shine. It's not that way. When 2 people marry, number 1, it's not 2 people, it's at least 6, because you marry your in-laws. And whatever negativity, whatever garbage, whatever dysfunction was in that marriage tends to come right into marriage. So it is a book that I'm proud of, and it's changed hundreds of thousands of people's lives. I know that.
And you quite openly said you've used this book and you've almost mastered the topic.
Well, let me tell you about that. Here's the problem. I'm trying to get my wife to read the book. And she says, she's a Baptist, okay? She got rules. She showers with a bathrobe on. Gives you just a little idea of what that's like. I said, honey, you really should read it. You're the star on several pages.
Now, again, sheet music is about uncovering the secrets of sexual intimacy in marriage. It is not about music composition. Because every time you take it to a church, the music department is like, oh, it's about worship. No, don't hand this out to the choir.
If you don't need that book, somebody you know and love does. I can tell you that. Yeah.
And the last book, and this is the one that I wanted to kind of focus on for the rest of our conversation, is Making Your Children Mind Without Losing Yours. And a lot of times as a pastor, you get to hear, I can't. And I firmly believe that most of that is really camouflaging, I won't. You know, I won't make my children mind. And there's a multitude of reasons why. Maybe they don't want to make their children mind because they grew up in an environment that they didn't enjoy as a child. Or maybe they're comparing what their kids do with the kids across the street. But there's a pile of things that get thrown into, you know, I can't. And you've really tackled that topic in this work. And one of the ways that you've proven this is not just in literature. You have schools in Arizona where you are applying the principles of this type of environment and seeing tremendous results for children in an educational environment that are really remarkable. Tell us about those schools.
Right. I now have 7 schools, charter schools, in Arizona and Colorado. Interesting enough, we're thinking about trying to get those schools in the great state of Texas. But the schools are built on the principles that are in that book, okay? And We are classical educators, so we get kids to think critically. And quite frankly, the teacher who is talking less in the classroom is going to produce a learning environment that's best for kids. We have what we call Socratic circles, where the kids discuss issues. And there's only so many allowed in a circle at a time. And when a kid wants to get in, he taps somebody on the shoulder and he takes that person's place. And they continue to discuss things. And I'll never forget, I was walking through the hallway once and a sixth grader came roaring down the hall. Dr. Leman, you've got to see our newspaper. And the sixth graders put out a newspaper. It was all about Genghis Khan. And his job was to interview Genghis Khan's grandfather and to figure out what kind of a little kid Genghis Khan was. But the kids had their own editor, a copy editor, they did the whole thing. Our productions, and they're productions that you'd swear were professionally done. The lighting director is a seventh grader. The audio person's an eighth grader. So we offer opportunities for kids to really engage. And speaking of engagement, I find the teachers all the time. The first week or two of school, you are on the phone talking to the parent. Not emailing them, talking to them. You know, years ago, as a parent, you try to haul your kid into the house. It's dinner time because they were out there playing. Today, parents are what? Trying to get their kids out of the house, away from what? Technology. I call that cell phone the new Goliath. We're not going to beat the cell phone. Cell phone's here forever. But I got a lot of ideas on that as well. But anyway, back to the schools. We're now building our 8th school because we have 600 families that want their kids in kindergarten. And our school's up in Parker, Colorado. We're building another one 3 miles away from it just to help the needs. So we're a public school, okay? So whatever walks in the door, we take them. We don't cherry pick. We're a very diverse community. We're blessed to have a lot of people of faith who are teachers. We have great teachers. And guess what? If we find a teacher that's not great, guess what we do? I'm going to say this with a smile on my face. We fire them. Because there's nothing more precious than your kids. I'm telling you, the education the kids get today in the public school, they're taught that America is a bad place. It's just a racist society that doesn't give a rat's tail about anything. It's nuts what's happening in our society. You see it, I see it every day. And so here's the funny part of this. My wife always says, we make plans and God laughs. I should have brought you a copy of my freshman year report card. I put it in a book called Planet Middle School, where I flunked everything. I graduated 4th out of my class in high school. I couldn't get in college. I finally got in college on probation with a 12-unit load. And now, I'm telling you, I'm driving down the street in Tucson, Arizona, and here's this beautiful edifice, Leman Academy of Excellence. I always said God had a great sense of humor, but that's a great sense of humor that he would allow me to have my name on a school, and we're changing lives every day with kids. I mean, this makes that old man feel like a young guy because we're making a difference in kids' lives. But I'm telling you, you watch the elections when they're coming, education's going to be a key thing because parents want to say and they want to know what's going on in schools and what they're teaching. And you, parent, you're the prime teacher. And you don't outsource your kids. Someone knocks on your door tonight and says, hey, can I take your Toyota? Oh, there's an American thought. Can I take your Toyota? You didn't know the person. Would you hand them the keys to your car? Then why would you hand your kid over to strangers? That's why I tell you the activity trap is deadly. Too many activities for kids waters down your ability to put your indelible imprint on your kid. It's important.
So, one of the reasons why I find that work so inspiring, you're 80 years old, and
79.
I'm rounding up.
Who ever thought I'd be 80?
You know, it happens.
Yeah.
But in this time of your life, you know, I look at stages of things, and I think that there's a learning season, and then there's a leading season. And one of the things that has happened in the modern world is that we've canceled the last season, and that's the leveraging season. That's when you get to take everything that you gained and gleaned in your life and wisdom and give it back to a younger generation. This is kind of the cycle that Deuteronomy establishes where, you know, Jehovah God puts it on the fathers in Israel where he says, you teach your children and you tell them how to behave and you train them and you show them and you lead them. And that was a generational thing because it required that dad was connected to granddad, was connected to great-granddad, and there was a learning season where everybody that was knee-high and down was listening and learning, and there was a leading season where everybody who was accomplished in their learning could lead, and then there was a leveraging season where Abraham got to talk to Jacob, where Isaac got to talk to all of the kids that Jacob had, where Jacob got to take Manasseh and Ephraim on his lap and teach them. And so what you're doing in the schools that you're providing is you're creating a space for that leverage to be had. How important is that generational leverage in this world?
I'm so glad you brought that up, Pastor Matt, because what we do at Leman Academy is this. We invite grandparents at one school in Marana, Arizona, which is a suburb of Tucson. We had Grandparent Day. How many people showed up for Grandparent Day at that school? 1,600. I mean, how do you feed 1,600? Hey, Lord, we need some. Yeah, instantly. But
well, if it's grandparents, you go to Golden Corral.
What we look for now is we bring in those grandmas and grandpas, and they sit with kids who are having struggles with reading or writing or math. It's all on a volunteer basis, okay? And I've said for years, we're missing something here. We gotta get the older people together with the ankle biters. And what a great opportunity to make a difference in that young kid's lives. And the older people, guess what? They have the patience. They've had the experience. Now, do we have some young moms come in and dads? Yeah, but they're few and far between. Why? Because they're all working. Nobody's got time for anything. And our kids are paying for it. And I want to make a difference. I challenge our teachers. I said, if you don't really have a heart for these kids, just do us all a favor. Go get them a job selling shoes. This is important stuff.
Absolutely. And, you know, one of the things that I think is important to define and discern is where does the school start and where does the family start? Because I think there's a lot of places where the society we live in wants the school to take care of everything. They're going to send out a problem and they want back a saint.
Well, the family, to answer your question, they've washed their hands of their own kids. They've said, here, learn them. You know, because I got to go and do all my stuff I'm doing. They don't have time for it. So when you think about it, how many meals do you think kids get in public school today? They'll get breakfast and lunch in most schools. I mean, they do things that the family used to do. So the family's sort of been pushed to the side. And now a lot of parents are saying, hey, time out. Wait a minute, I know I've been too busy here, but what's going on inside the walls of those schools? What are they really teaching the kids? I mean, sending your kid to a university today is a crapshoot at best, to put it bluntly. I mean, I'm a former dean of students, by the way, at the University of Arizona, so I'm not talking out of the top of my head. I've been there 10 years.
And so what does a family need to do to reinsert itself and make the home what God intended it to be?
Well, number one, there's some sacred times in families these days. And one of them can be as simple, believe it or not, is having dinner together. And all cell phones and guns are checked at the door. Okay? The next time you go to a restaurant, I want you to think of the chubby psychologist from Tucson, Arizona. You tell me what you see. Just look around the restaurant. Everybody's got their cell phone out. It's just the way it is. It's addictive, number one. I mean, there's now the legislators, our leaders are looking at, banning things like TikTok. There's a lot of things should be banned in our country.
Right.
Well, the Surgeon General put out a warning on social media, like they did back in the 80s about cigarettes. What is it about technology that we're starting to discover is destructive rather than constructive?
We've had a good 40 years of research, good research that says screen time isn't good for kids. Again, you tell me what you see down at the grocery store. You'll see the 18-month-old with an appliance, a device in their hand. Screen time is not good for children. We've learned this during the COVID thing. Learning went way down. And by the way, Leman schools during all that period of COVID, one school down 2 weeks. We just sucked it up and we got through it. These are complicated questions. I hope we're not making them too simple. But hey, parents, the window is short. You know, between 18 months and age 3, you can teach a kid 5 different languages. They're like little sponges. You get a bunch of shrinks together in the same room. And getting shrinks to agree on almost anything is not real easy. But one thing all of us will agree on is this, and listen to it, and that is personality forms in the first 5, 6 years of life. So those early child experiences where your son, your daughter understands that you, parent, are the authority in the family, not the authoritarian. Permissiveness breeds rebellion. Authoritarianism breeds rebellion. We were talking before, you used the term balance. Balance is really important. That's why kids need vitamin E, which is encouragement, different from praise. Okay? Vitamin E, but they also need vitamin N, which is no. And together, that gives us balance. And by the way, check this out. I'm on Good Morning America one morning. We're talking, the topic is why praise is instructive with kids. What was that? Praise is destructive with kids. I mean, most people go, what was that? I thought praise was good for kids. Praise God. Okay? God is worthy of our praise. Matt and Kevin are not. Now let me give you the difference real quick between praise and encouragement. It's Saturday morning, Mom, I'm going to pick on you. You had a dental appointment. You're trying to get everything done on Saturday that you can't do Monday through Friday. And you come home and you're driving home and think, oh, the dishes, the kitchen's a mess. Oh my goodness, I got to get that done before I do anything else today. And most women say, hey, I know where you're coming from on that. And Mom walks in to a clean, sparkling kitchen.
It's a miracle.
Yeah, it's a miracle. There's your 12-year-old son with a dish towel over his shoulder. Honey, did you clean this up? I sure did, Mom. Oh, you are the best boy in the world. God bless you. Oh, you are absolutely. Come here. Here's $10. Now, some people are saying, hey, what's wrong with that? Well, that's praise and reward. And the problem is that's how all of us grew up. But let me give you how to handle that same situation using vitamin E. Wow, honey, you clean this up? Honey, what a pleasant surprise. You have no idea how tired I am. Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Great job. And guess what? You just saved $10. Quick other example, kid brings home 5 A's on a report card. Oh, 5 days. I can't wait to call your dad at work. Oh, I can't wait to call Aunt Martha. She's always talking about that little, I can't wait to tell everybody, oh, this is the best day of my life. Oh my goodness, 5 A's. Oh my, here's $20. Same principle, right? Using vitamin E. Wow, 5 A's. Honey, you look like all that hard work you put in really paid off. Congratulations. Fist bump. And again, you're 20 up. But the point is, the takeaway for the kid is, Mom, Dad, notice my hard work. Your kids want to please you. Do you realize that? So sometimes when your kids get a little mouthy, you got to give them a stink eye. You got to take them by the little buzzard by the beak and find a short ravine to... No. But the point is, kids are powerful by age 3. They start power about 18 months. You don't think so? Try to put an 18-month-old into a high chair who decided he don't want to play that game. It's impossible. They pull up their legs. So when a kid throws a temper tantrum, what he's saying is this. He's saying, I am an authority over you. There was a guy named Paul. I never caught his last name, but he's really important. A lot of churches named after him. And this is what he says in the book of Ephesians. He says, children, obey your parents. This is the right thing to do because God has placed them in authority over you. That's a Living Bible translation. I love it because it uses the word authority. That's your job and mine, to be an authority over our children without being control freaks, without giving in. Your yes needs to be yes, your no needs to be no.
And the balance that you create in the context of encouragement is that you establish expectations so that a child doesn't feel like they should be celebrated and praised for simply doing the right thing. We've allowed praise to become such a part of our culture that people want to be celebrated for, I showed up to work on time.
On Wall Street, there was an article
somebody
about
says,
young execs.
I haven't gotten a promotion, I haven't missed a day of work in a month.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, congratulations, you've only been here 30 days. And as ridiculous as it sounds, it's the reality that a lot of places and people are facing, because if you do not celebrate someone who has been perpetually praised all of their life, they constantly drift and move until they find the right pep rally that's going to cheer for them every time they walk through the door. And so when you have an encouraging environment, the expectation is, this is good behavior, this is what's expected of you, and when you do not meet expectations, we need to talk about it.
And there's plenty of kids whose parents have paid for their education. They went to college 4 years. This is now 6 years later. What are they doing? They're living at home and they're doing essentially nada. Nothing. We've snowplowed the roads of life for kids.
Well, I look at it in the context of a marriage relationship. When I come home from work, my wife doesn't go, oh, he's home. Thank you, he's home. The kids don't break out, song and dance and timbrel and ribbons and flares. Hey, Dad, you're home. Why? Because it's expected that I should be home at a certain time based on the expectation that as the provider, I have this job to do. Now, if you grew up in an environment of praise,
That's right.
I can come home and go, my wife doesn't love me. Every time I walk through the door, she doesn't show me enough attention. My kids don't appreciate me.
Yeah.
They don't realize that I pay the light bill and put all the food in the fridge around here. And when I come in, they just give me a hug and turn around and walk away to the room that I had built for them. And it sounds ridiculous, but this is something that's almost a pandemic in our generation, because people are checking out on their families and checking out on their marriages and checking out on responsibilities because they don't feel like they're being rewarded enough for doing what is just the responsible thing to do.
And yet, if you just use the simple vitamin E and encouragement, I always tell men especially, hey men, find one of those little shoebox cards. Send a little love note to that woman you love. Put a stamp on it. Let it come with the bills. Let her say, what's this? That looks like my husband's handwriting. Hey honey, I just want to take a minute out to appreciate you, tell you how much I appreciate you, what you do for me, what you do for this family. I don't know what I'd do without you. Words of encouragement make a difference. When we talk about praise, and you heard me say what a praise, there's something now called false praise, okay, which you're alluding to, Matt. And, you know, believe it or not, this is the body of a former athlete, believe it or not. And I was a baseball player, a pretty good baseball player. Little League All-Star and all that little stuff. And I was reading USA Today, which I really don't like the rag, but I was reading it. And I was in the lifestyle section. And there's big, bold headlines about false praise. Well, I've been talking to families about false praise for years and show you how your ego can get a little ahead of you. I said to myself, oh, I bet I'm in that article. It's a big article. 2 pages, it's got to be in there. I am so vain. Forgive me, Lord. I'm skimming the article looking for Leman, okay? It's not there. But it was interesting. They talked about a baseball game, Little League baseball. It got my attention. They talked about a Little League game where the pitcher threw 3 strikes over the plate in a row. If you've ever been to a Little League game, and the kid throws 3 strikes right over the plate in a row, that's sort of unusual. But anyway, the kid never swings his bat at 1. He strikes out. Doesn't lift the bat off the shoulder. The young parents are yelling from behind the screen, "Great at bat, Matthew!" His name was Matthew. "Great at bat, Matthew! Great at bat!" I got news for you, Matthew, you little loser. It was a lousy at bat. You didn't even swing. Now, don't be sending me an email about calling the kid a loser. That was just for your entertainment. But my point is,
can we change the names to protect the innocent?
yes. The kid's name was Matt.
Okay, well, he spelled it with 1 T.
Yeah, what would make it different. But what would have been helpful is for the dad to come up to Matthew after the game saying, "Matt, rough day at the plate tonight. Hey, listen, I'm going to be home Wednesday and Thursday night early. If you want me to go down to the park with you and throw batting practice, I'd be glad to." In other words, the Christian home is a great place for kids to learn to fail. So when the milk spills tomorrow morning or the orange juice topples, we don't need a threat, we don't need a verbal thrashing, we need a rag. And kids need to learn that in life you make mistakes, but you get a rag and life goes on. Listen, Christian, the sin you're going to commit this week. Oh, I don't. How do you know? The sin you're going to commit this week, okay? I got news for you. It's already forgiven. Get it? We're imperfect. Don't be a flaw picker. Some of you think that criticism is a gift of the Holy Spirit. It ain't. You're the pastor. You tell me, am I telling the truth or not?
No, that's why I brought you in, so you can say things I don't have the courage to say. I have to stay here. You get to leave. So, they'll write me emails about that grouchy guy.
Don't you bring that fat little guy back here ever again.
He insulted your batting average. One of the challenges that I think we face in our modern world is that when you hear sound biblical advice, children obey your parents. You fathers train.
Yeah, sounds too authoritarian.
Well, because it's so counterculture. people get caught in the trap of comparing themselves with the neighbors across the street as opposed to upholding a standard in their home. And I think that one of the things that's important to understand, the relationship that's often referred to between us and God is that He's our Father. And He has expectations of us and encourages us the same way that He expects us to have expectations and encouragement in our own home. The dynamic in the relationship is something that we should mirror vertically as well as horizontally.
Right. So here's the deal. Listen to this. 5 kids. The Leman kids never had a curfew. What? Never had a curfew? That sounds permissive. No, it wasn't permissive at all. Hey, Dad, what time do I need to be home? How do you be home at a reasonable hour? Dad, would you just tell me what time I need to be home? I just did. Be home at a reasonable hour. I had the kids. The kids wrote the rules governing the use of the family car. I'll drive like there's a cop behind me at every moment. I won't have more than one other kid with me in the car. I won't have the music too loud. The kids know all the rules. Are you raising your kid in a home or a hotel? I'm telling you, most Americans raise their kids in hotels. But you're paying the mortgage, or you're paying the rent. Because the kids don't have a piece of the action. The kids don't give back to the family. Your 11-year-old or 12-year-old is capable of paying every bill in your family online. What a great way to teach a kid how much it costs to rent an apartment, to have a mortgage payment, to have a car payment. You want some reality discipline in a kid's life? There it is. Do the kids feel like they can bring their buddies over to your house? Better yet, do you encourage that? Do you say, hey, listen, if you ever want to have some of your friends over, I'll spring for pizza and wings? Do they feel like it's part of their house? You don't hang around with people you're uncomfortable with. Do you? Is anybody here hanging out with people they're uncomfortable with? I don't think so. You want your kids to hang. I was telling them, I can't get rid of my kids. Every place Sandy and I go, they want to come with us. They've already planned my 80th birthday party 2 months after the fact, halfway around the world. It's going to be fun.
Are you taking your speed up?
Yes, I'm taking the speed up. Yeah, that's me. You should go to Europe. Oh my goodness, you should see that. We won't go there.
Sheet music. Yeah. Well, Dr. Leman, if parents here and those who are watching want to find out how to access this content, obviously you've got books. We're going to do a book signing for anyone who would like to have the opportunity to meet you and get some of your works immediately following the service.
Yeah.
But you have podcasts.
Yeah, I do.
You have a website. You do a lot of things in this fast-paced technological world that people can get a hold of quickly.
I'm glad you mentioned, because I'll go and speak someplace and forget to tell people we have a podcast. I'm Dr. Forgetful. But here's the deal on the books. I always want to beat Amazon and Walmart, and I do it this way. The books are $15. If you buy any 3 books, you can have the Making Children Mind book, which sold over 1 million copies for a reason, free. So that takes all those discounts away and makes it easy on you. And I will sign books later on. But yeah, we have a podcast. We have a website called birthorderguy.com. I could never shake birth order, you know. I've done Oprah, and some of you are old enough to remember Phil Donahue did Oprah like 5 or 6 times. I've done every TV show I think there ever was. Did The View. Those guys are nuts. That's a psychological term, not a clinical term. Nuts.
No offense to nuts, but
You know
yeah.
what's funny? I did, the first time I did it on sheet music. You know, I mean,
You talked about sheet music with Joy Behar?
I did. But I'm telling you. But, you know, a long time ago, I used to, I think in some ways I used to apologize for using humor. And about 30 years ago, I had this moment. Hey, Leman, I'm the baby of the family. I had a sister who was perfect. Okay? She put sheets over the furniture, a clear vinyl runner as you come to her home. Just stay on the clear vinyl runner and everything will be fine. And she marries a dentist, also a firstborn, whose motto is find the hole, drill the hole, fill the hole. Very exciting man. I had a brother who's the quarterback of the football team and voted best looking. They used to vote best looking in your class. He got best looking.
And he was your brother?
Yeah. Okay. And then there was me. Well, you be the shrink for a minute. Why did I turn out to be the comedian? Why was I good at bird calls? How come I can talk like, I mean, I'm a rock star at our school because I talk like Donald Duck to these little kids. But you know what? Go back to this moment. I realized, hey, Leman, God gave you the gift of humor. Trust me, when you're on The View with those crazy ladies, humor helps. I asked the question about, there's a difference. This is based on research, but when do men prefer sex? Given a choice, morning or evening, what do you suppose the answer is?
Yes.
You got the best answer to the men right there. But the answer, quite frankly, is morning. And so I asked the question to Joy Behar, when do you suppose women prefer to have sex? Well, the real answer is in the evening, okay? And she said, oh, I know, after they've had a few martinis and they don't care. And I said, no, actually, it's June. June is the correct answer. You know, but sometimes what I figured out is, hey, that's a gift that God gave you. Just be careful, don't misuse it. And when I know sometimes when you use humor, you hurt people's feelings.
Well, that's what makes it funny.
Necessarily. Well, I'll tell you, today's...
You've seen the theatrical masks, right?
Yeah.
One of them's laughing.
Yeah.
What's the other one doing?
I don't know.
Crying.
Yeah.
Why is the one crying?
Yeah.
Because the other one's laughing at whatever it was that hurt him.
But in today's society, everybody gets offended over everything. You can't say anything. It's crazy. We got to take back our families. We got to take over our schools. Parents need to have input. We can do better.
Well, not only can we do better, we need to do better. And you've made mention that, you know, you used to apologize for things. I don't know that you apologize much anymore. But I don't think anyone should ever apologize for making the decision to raise a family based on biblical principles.
Oh, yeah.
If that bothers others, allow them to be bothered and just keep doing what God created you to do.
I'll tell you a quick story. I'm coming home from a 700 club. And by the way, those are great people over there. I've done them for years. And I flew down to Atlanta and then had a nonstop from Atlanta all the way to Tucson, where I live. And I really try not to talk to people on the airplane. When I'm done, I'm done. I put headphones on that don't even work just to say don't talk to me. And so anyway, this guy started talking to me. He says, what do you do? That's what men, that's their conversation. Hey, what do you do? So I never know what to tell him, you know. I said, well, I'm a psychologist by trade. Oh, really? Well, so we start talking, he asked me questions, and we're going back and forth. It was almost like I made this up. With God as my judge, every word's the truth. He says, well, tell me, young man, this is how long ago this was. Where did a young guy like you get all that good information from? I said, tell you the truth, I got it out of one book. One book? What's the name of the book? I said, Bible, B-I-B-L-E. He started writing, and he stopped at B. It's the truth, you know. And the Bible is the revelation of who God is. I mean, it's not just a guide for marriage or parenthood, but And there's not a lot of specific scriptures you can really hang your hat on, but like train up a child the way he should go. When he is old, he will not depart from it. Well, I got news for you. You parents don't train up children. You don't. You train down children. Here's mom walking in the supermarket, got the 9-year-old and 11-year-old. What does she say to the kids before they go in? All right, now listen up. No running around, no fooling around, and don't ask for anything because the answer is no. Game on. And so there you are, 10 minutes later, into the conveyor belt, you got your Visa out, you're looking at the numbers, and all of a sudden you look down the conveyor belt, there they are, M&M's plain and peanut. And now, if the truth is known, you'd like to drown them, right there on the spot. And you look up, and there's Pastor Matt and his cute wife, Kendall. Oh, hi, Pastor. Okay. All right, but then there's no more candy for life. You understand? We say stupid, dumb things to kids, and we wonder why kids don't pay attention to us. You got to play smart parent. Your kid slams the door. What does the traditional parent say? Hey, don't you be slamming that door in this house, young lady. Let me give you a little different take on it. Hey, honey, excuse me, I'm not sure what that slam door meant. Does that mean you're sick of living in this 4-bedroom home with premium Wi-Fi? I mean, remove your sails from your child's wind. Ladies, quick question. Is your husband capable of saying something really but stupid? You don't have to put your hand down, but it's just a rhetorical question. I'm going to assume most women are saying, oh, yeah. Next time he says something really stupid, just look at him and go, wow. Fascinating. The same thing with kids. And by the way, kids don't like your questions. What do you mean they don't like your questions? They don't like your questions. It puts them on the defensive. Husbands and kids have one thing in common. They all hate questions. Okay? If you want a husband to talk, say, tell me more about that, he'll talk. If you say to your son or daughter, honey, I'd love your opinion about this or that, they'll talk, but ask them a question, no. How was your day today at school? Fine. What'd you do at school today? Nothing. What does the kid do then? He goes to his bedroom, closes the door, locks it in 4 places, and texts his buddy like a woodpecker that's got a bad case of ADHD. And he shuts you out of your life. And by the way, you're the one that bought the stupid cell phone. We're going to do a show about that tomorrow, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
About technology.
I'll be more interesting than Joy Behar, I promise.
You sure are better looking.
I don't know how to feel about that.
Look, I'm telling you. Listen, I should, does this go out on the air?
It's gone.
Oh, it's already gone?
Yeah, it's out. This is like artillery.
Well,
the cannonballs are already flying.
I won't say this, I won't name the show, but there's a show in New York that I've been on a couple times, and I was amazed at the filthy mouths of people on certain shows in New York City. That's all I'm going to say on that topic.
And you grew up in New York.
New York, upstate New York.
Yeah.
Buffalo.
Exactly.
4 Super Bowls in a row.
Well, vitamin E, they're coming back.
Yeah, they're coming back. All right.
Well, Kevin, I want to thank you for taking the time to come and share again with our congregation. If you enjoyed having the opportunity to listen to Dr. Kevin tonight,